There are moments in a celebrity feud when the cameras stop being the most dangerous thing in the room. The microphones disappear. The live stream ends. The social media posts slow down. And suddenly, the argument is no longer being fought in front of millions of fans. It is being fought inside a courtroom. That is where Ray J now finds himself. But there is something important buried underneath the explosive headlines surrounding this case. Ray J has not been found liable for defamation, and Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner have not won the entire lawsuit. The case is still alive. What has happened is more complicated, and in some ways, more revealing. A Los Angeles judge has already delivered rulings that moved major parts of this decades-old conflict out of the public courtroom and into private arbitration, while keeping Kim and Kris's defamation claims alive in open court. The judge also refused an attempt to keep the controversial 2023 settlement agreement completely sealed, placing key terms of the deal into the public record. And that changes the story. Because for years, the battle surrounding Ray J and Kim Kardashian has existed in two worlds at once. There was the world the public saw: television, interviews, social media, headlines, accusations, denials. And then there was the world hidden behind confidential agreements, lawyers, sworn declarations, court filings, and six-figure legal strategies. Now those two worlds have collided. And the biggest question isn't simply whether Ray J lost. The real question is this: how much of Ray J's legal strategy survived once the judge separated his claims from Kim and Kris's defamation case and forced the contractual fight behind closed doors? To understand why this became such a consequential moment, you have to go back to where the story began. Long before the lawsuits. Long before the RICO accusations. Long before the headlines about millions of dollars. There was a relationship between two young people that would eventually become one of the most recognizable celebrity scandals of the modern era. Ray J, born William Ray Norwood Jr., was already known in entertainment circles. Kim Kardashian was not yet the global business figure she would become. They dated years before Kim Kardashian became synonymous with a multi-billion-dollar brand empire, reality television, beauty companies, shapewear, criminal justice advocacy, and one of the most powerful personal brands in modern entertainment. The relationship produced intimate footage. And in 2007, that footage became public. The consequences were enormous. Kim Kardashian filed a lawsuit against Vivid Entertainment over the release, while the company maintained that it had acquired the footage from a third party. From that point forward, the tape became permanently embedded in the Kardashian origin story. But there was another story developing underneath it. A story about control. Control over the narrative. Control over who could speak. Control over who was blamed. And, eventually, control over what could be said in public. For years, Ray J and Kardashian offered dramatically different perspectives on what happened. The public heard fragments. Interviews. Television appearances. Social media posts. Accusations. Denials. But in 2023, the two sides attempted to do something that celebrity feuds rarely manage to accomplish. They tried to end it. A settlement agreement was reached involving Kardashian, Kris Jenner, and Jenner's production company on one side, and Ray J and his mother, Sonia Norwood, on the other. According to later court filings and reporting, the agreement involved $6 million in payments to Ray J and contained provisions restricting public discussion and disparagement connected to the dispute. For a moment, it appeared that the decades-long war might finally be over. But the silence didn't last. And that is where the story takes its first major turn. Because the agreement that was supposed to close the door would eventually become one of the most important pieces of evidence in a new legal battle. Ray J later claimed that references to the sex tape appeared in episodes of The Kardashians after the settlement had been signed. Kardashian and Jenner disputed the interpretation, arguing among other things that the relevant episodes had been filmed before the agreement was finalized. The disagreement wasn't merely about television. It was about whether the settlement had actually accomplished what both sides believed it was supposed to accomplish. And then came 2025. The temperature changed. Ray J began speaking publicly about Kardashian and Jenner in increasingly serious terms. The comments were no longer limited to their old relationship. They moved into the territory of federal criminal investigations and racketeering. In a May 2025 appearance connected to coverage of Sean Diddy Combs' federal case, Ray J suggested that racketeering charges against the Kardashians would be believable to him. Then came a live stream later that year. According to the lawsuit filed by Kardashian-Jenner, Ray J escalated dramatically, claiming that federal authorities were coming after Kim and Kris and suggesting a federal RICO case was developing. The language spread. The internet reacted. And suddenly, something that might once have remained celebrity gossip had become a potential defamation case. Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner responded through lawyers. On October 1, 2025, they filed suit in Los Angeles County Superior Court. Their allegation was direct. Ray J had made false claims suggesting that they were the targets of a federal racketeering investigation. Their lawsuit sought damages for defamation and false light publicity. The complaint characterized his allegations as false and harmful and argued that no such federal investigation existed. That distinction is critical, because there is an enormous legal difference between saying, "I think someone behaves badly," and stating or strongly implying that federal authorities are actively investigating that person for a serious criminal offense. Point one is opinion. The other can become a statement of fact. And that distinction would eventually become central to Ray J's defense. But Ray J did not simply sit back and defend himself. He countersued. And now the story became a legal chess match. Ray J argued that the case wasn't really about defamation. He claimed it was connected to a much older dispute and alleged that Kardashian and Jenner had violated the 2023 settlement. He accused them of continuing to promote what he said was a false narrative surrounding the sex tape. He also made far more explosive allegations about how the tape originally came to be released. Kardashian and Jenner denied those allegations. And the case became something much larger than the original RICO accusation. It became a battle over memory. A battle over contracts. A battle over credibility. A battle over who controlled the historical record. And eventually, a battle over what the public was actually allowed to see. Then came one of the first major judicial setbacks for Ray J's broader strategy. The court had to decide whether the contractual dispute belonged in a public courtroom at all. The answer was no. On April 24, 2026, Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Stephen A. Ellis granted Kardashian and Jenner's request to compel Ray J's breach of contract claims into arbitration. That matters. Arbitration is not the same thing as winning a case. It does not establish that every allegation made by Kim and Kris is true. It does not mean Ray J has been found liable for defamation. But it does mean that the court determined the contractual dispute should be handled through the arbitration mechanism contained in the agreement rather than through the public court process. And for someone fighting a public relations battle as much as a legal one, that is significant. Because the courtroom is public, arbitration is generally private. The judge essentially divided the battlefield. One fight would move behind closed doors. The other would remain in court. That second fight was Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner's defamation case against Ray J. And that case was not dismissed. The judge concluded that the defamation and false light claims existed independently of the contractual relationship. In other words, the existence of a settlement agreement did not automatically eliminate the separate legal questions surrounding allegedly defamatory statements. This is the part that gets lost when a headline says simply, "Ray J loses." He didn't lose everything. But he didn't get the sweeping procedural victory he was seeking either. And the distinction is enormous. Because Ray J had another weapon. California's anti-SLAPP law. Anti-SLAPP statutes are designed to protect people from lawsuits intended to punish protected speech. Ray J's legal team argued that his comments should be protected. His attorneys raised an unusual argument, that his statements were not meant to be taken as literal factual accusations. They argued, in substance, that Ray J's online persona involved provocation and trolling, and that the statements should be understood in that context. The defense also raised another remarkable detail. Ray J's legal filings disclosed that he had used ChatGPT while researching whether a RICO case involving the Kardashians might be viable. That detail instantly became a media story of its own. But legally, the bigger issue remained the same. Were Ray J's statements protected expressions of opinion or hyperbole? Or did they communicate factual claims that could be proven false? That is a question courts have to take seriously. Defamation law is not simply about whether someone was offended. The legal system has to distinguish protected speech from actionable false statements. And because Kardashian and Jenner are extraordinarily famous public figures, the constitutional protections surrounding speech become particularly important. That is why this case cannot responsibly be reduced to Ray J said something bad, so he loses. The law is more complicated. But there was another development that changed the public perception of the fight: the settlement itself. Kardashian and Jenner wanted portions of the agreement kept confidential. The court disagreed. On March 30, 2026, Judge Ellis rejected their request to keep the 2023 settlement agreement sealed. The judge concluded that the arguments presented for secrecy were insufficient, describing them as too vague and unsupported to overcome the public's interest in access to judicial records. Limited financial information, such as bank account details, could still be redacted. But the basic agreement was no longer protected from public scrutiny in the way Kardashian and Jenner had sought. That meant the document designed to silence the old dispute became evidence in the new one. And that is one of the strangest ironies of this entire saga. The agreement was supposed to end the conversation. Instead, litigation helped expose it. The public learned that the settlement involved $6 million. The public learned that the agreement included restrictions concerning public discussion and disparagement. The public learned that the parties had created a contractual framework intended to prevent the old fight from continuing indefinitely. And yet here they were. Still fighting. Still accusing. Still defending. Still in court. The irony is almost cinematic. A deal designed to bury a scandal helped produce another scandal. And that brings us to Ray J's biggest problem. The longer this dispute continues, the more difficult it becomes for either side to control the narrative. For Ray J, the danger is obvious. Every time he talks about the Kardashians, he risks giving their attorneys new material to examine. Every public statement can be compared against sworn declarations. Every interview can be compared against court filings. Every social media post can become part of the broader story. And once statements enter litigation, context becomes everything. The same sentence that sounds explosive online can look very different when placed under oath. That is why courtrooms are so different from social media. On Instagram, certainty can be rewarded. In court, unsupported certainty can become a liability. Online, the loudest person often gets the most attention. In litigation, the person with the strongest evidence has the advantage. And this case is moving from one environment to the other. That transition may be the most important story of all. Because Ray J's public strategy has historically relied heavily on his willingness to say what others may be unwilling to say, that can create attention. It can generate headlines. It can create viral clips. But legal disputes operate under different rules. A statement isn't judged solely by how many people watched it. It is judged by what the statement meant. Whether it was presented as fact. Whether it was false. Whether the speaker acted with the required level of fault. And whether the plaintiff can prove legally recognizable harm. Those questions remain unresolved in the defamation case. As of August 15, 2026, there is no verified final judgment declaring Ray J liable for defamation. That fact matters, because calling the current situation a final defeat would be inaccurate. What can accurately be said is that Ray J suffered significant procedural setbacks. His contractual claims were compelled into arbitration. The settlement he had been fighting around became public. And his anti-SLAPP challenge to the defamation case had not, according to the latest reporting available, produced the dismissal he was seeking. The court heard arguments in June 2026 and took the matter under submission, meaning a final decision on that motion had not been reported in the sources available for the script. That leaves the case in an uncomfortable middle ground. Ray J has not been vindicated. Kim and Kris have not received a final defamation verdict. The story is unfinished. And unfinished stories can be the most dangerous. Because neither side gets to write the ending. A judge or jury eventually will. But there is another layer to this dispute that has received less attention. The economics of celebrity litigation. A case like this isn't simply about legal fees. It is about reputation, brand partnerships, television opportunities, public trust, search results, business negotiations. The value of a celebrity's name. Kim Kardashian's brand is built around visibility. Visibility is an asset. But visibility also creates vulnerability. A serious criminal allegation, even an unproven one, can travel around the world in minutes. It can be clipped, reposted, translated, repackaged, separated from the original context. And by the time a denial arrives, millions of people may already have seen the allegation. That is part of why defamation cases involving celebrities are so emotionally charged. The plaintiff may say, "This is false." The defendant may say, "This is protected speech." The audience may say, "I believe whoever I already liked." And the truth can become trapped somewhere between those three reactions. That is precisely what the courts are supposed to prevent. Not by deciding who has the better fan base. Not by deciding who has the better television show. Not by deciding who gets more likes. But by applying legal standards to evidence. And that is why the March and April 2026 rulings are so important. They stripped away some of the celebrity fog. The court treated the settlement as a contract. The court treated the defamation allegations as a separate legal dispute. And the court refused to automatically allow the contractual framework to swallow the defamation claims. That separation is devastating to the idea that one sweeping argument could end the entire dispute. Instead, there are now multiple battlefields. And each battlefield has different rules. There is arbitration. There is the public defamation case. There are questions surrounding the settlement. There are sworn declarations. There are accusations of dishonesty. And there is the continuing battle over the narrative of the 2007 tape. For Ray J, perhaps the most consequential issue is credibility. Not because a court has declared him dishonest. It hasn't. But because once a case reaches sworn testimony, credibility becomes unavoidable. Kardashian and Jenner have publicly denied Ray J's allegations about orchestrating the release of the tape. In declarations filed in March 2026, Kardashian described the allegation that she and her mother planned the release as a lie. Jenner similarly denied involvement and described the allegations as deeply offensive. Ray J's attorney pushed back aggressively, arguing that the denials were false and raising the possibility of perjury. But again, that is an allegation. There has been no established criminal finding of perjury against Kardashian or Jenner based on those declarations. That distinction must remain intact. Because this is where celebrity reporting can become dangerously misleading. A lawyer accusing someone of lying is not the same as a court finding that person lied. A countersuit is not a verdict. A motion is not a judgment. A denial is not proof. And an allegation repeated 1,000,000 times does not become evidence simply because it becomes viral. The entire Ray J Kardashian dispute is essentially a case study in that problem. The internet wants certainty. The law demands proof. And those two systems rarely move at the same speed. Consider what happened with the RICO allegations. Ray J's statements became viral because they were dramatic. Federal investigation. Racketeering. The feds. Those words carry enormous emotional weight. They instantly transform a celebrity feud into something that sounds like a national criminal investigation. But according to Kardashian and Jenner's lawsuit, no such federal investigation existed. No credible evidence establishing such an investigation has been publicly presented. That is why they sued. But Ray J's defense is equally important to understand. His legal team has argued that his statements were not necessarily literal factual assertions and that the context, including his online persona and the nature of the broadcasts, matters. That creates a genuine legal question. Was the audience supposed to understand him as reporting a verified federal investigation, or was he engaging in provocative commentary? That distinction could become central to whether the defamation case survives. And this is where the title "Ray J Loses Big" needs a reality check. The court has not yet ruled on the ultimate truth of the defamation claim. There is no final jury verdict. There is no final damages award. There is no final judicial declaration that Ray J defamed Kim Kardashian and Kris Jenner. The actual situation is more nuanced. Ray J lost control of one part of his case when the judge sent his contractual claims to